Hello comrades, it's Captain Communist here, and today I'm going to explain to you all why I hate US foreign policy. Now, the first reason why I hate US foreign policy is that it doesn't serve the interests of the people, both abroad and in the United States. The only ones who benefit from US foreign policy are the corporate fat cats, specifically the multinational corporate investors. The main reason why I made this video is because I don't agree with what Donald Trump is planning to do to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Socialist Republic of Cuba. But it's not just those countries that I'm going to be focusing on. I would also like to briefly mention Vietnam, Laos and Iraq, all of who escaped victoriously from the iron fist of Uncle Sam. I would also like to mention the unfortunate countries who were defeated by the scourge of imperialism, which are Yugoslavia and Libya. The aim of US foreign policy is that the United States will not support the leader of a country unless he or she opens up their borders to multinational corporate investors. If a leader of a country does the opposite of this, they get demonized, their country gets demonized, and the people of the United States get told by the right-wing corporate-owned media that the leader of that country has to be done in. That is exactly what happened when Gaddafi was the leader of Libya. Gaddafi kicked out all the private oil companies, he nationalised Libya's oil, he then set up social systems for his people which were free healthcare, free education and very cheap housing, which improved the living standards of the Libyan people. But the United States did not like that at all, so they basically paid for Gaddafi's death, which is why Libya is now full of US-sponsored jihadis, US-sponsored monarchists and CIA operatives. A similar event happened in Yugoslavia shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Even though Yugoslavia had its own communist government running the country, it did have support from the Soviet Union. However, shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia was attacked and bombed by the US imperialists. And not just the USA, but NATO as well. Approximately 300,000 people were killed by the NATO bombings in Yugoslavia, and their infrastructure and economy got destroyed because of it, as schools, hospitals, houses, government buildings and fuel depots were destroyed by the imperialist aggressors. The United States also attacks countries that undergo a radical political change, because when Vietnam was undergoing a communist revolution to overthrow the European colony that was settled there, the United States saw its opportunity to attack the Vietnamese. The USA took that opportunity with arrogance and was defeated by the communists. The same can be said for Laos. Do you think that would have taught the United States a valuable lesson? No, it didn't, because following the 9/11 terrorist attack, which in fact was conducted by the CIA, the Iraq War happened. The Iraq War was not a war for anyone's freedom at all. It was a war for oil. Due to the large amounts of oil fields that were in Iraq, the USA conducted an imperialist war to steal the oil. But the Iraqi people rose up to the imperialists and managed to defend their resources, causing the imperialists to abort the war. The United States has also attempted to destroy the Socialist Republic of Cuba, simply because the Cuban government has provided its people with free healthcare, free education and very cheap housing, which of course goes against the book of US foreign policy, and that is why this year the United States had put a blockade on Cuba. But sanction after sanction, Cuba is still flying the red flag high, just 70 miles away from the star-spangled monster that wants to bring back Batista. The US imperialists have not stopped there. They have also been threatening the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is actually the reason why the DPRK has been building lots of weapons over the last few decades. Without conducting imperialist wars, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is on its way to becoming one of the world's most progressive societies. And unlike the United States, the DPRK is using its military purely as a defensive force. It's time to face it, comrades. The United States is just a big bully that enslaves other nations through brutal policies of colonization and imperialism to make itself better. That is not a successful foreign policy. That is a greedy foreign policy.